We need to quickly decide what we're doing for Clown when Miss Ida gets here. We can either do poems or free time first. I know usually we choose randomly for who gets to decide our free time activity, but mine is, how to put it, a really normal seeming to an outsider. So maybe it would be a good thing to do today. This sounds good. What's the plan?
This isn't going to take forever like your last activity, is it?
Well, not too long, no. It is that we all read and discuss a whole play. But the play isn't that long, and reading it shouldn't take too much time at all.
That does seem very pleasantly literary. Do you have the play?
Yes, I printed out some copies of the script for everyone.
Well then, let's get to reading and looking appropriately studious.
I don't often come to this part of the school. The science department got its own new fancy building a few years back. Let's see, I'm looking for room 3L. Ah, here it is. I should try to see what they're doing before they know I'm here. It sounds quiet inside. Let's see if I can take a peek through these high windows. It looks like they're just reading. Even Natsuki. I'll have to ask them later how they managed to get here to just settle in and read quietly. Almost seems a shame to disturb them, but here we go. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Miss Ida. Welcome to our humble club room. I would introduce you, but I believe you already know everyone else. We were just spending the first bit of our time on an activity Yuri suggested. We're reading and discussing the script of a play called The Sunset Limited.
I don't think I've heard of that one. What's it about? Well, it's a play set in a single room with only 2 characters. We don't know their names, they're only called Black and White in the script. It's set in America. White is a white atheist college professor who believes life is meaningless and filled with suffering. So he determines to commit suicide, but he's saved by Black. Black is a Black evangelical Christian and ex-convict who believes in life having purpose and redemption. So they go back to Black's apartment, and that's where the play starts up. It's basically just the 2 of them debating the problem of evil, the meaning of human existence, and so forth. But it is very thoughtfully written and compelling. I see. Pretty dark stuff for high school.
But that makes for some of the best literature. It's pretty hard to write literature that's just sweetness and light. It's so hard to find really good art where happiness isn't sweetest when defined against suffering. Like Shakespeare. Even in his comedies, sad things have to happen before happy things can, right?
I suppose that's true. Never really thought of it that way. You guys think pretty deeply about literature, huh?
We sure do.
You must, if even you are talking about the artistic value of sadness theory.
Yeah. Even I talk about sad or dark stuff in here a lot. But I try my best to bring it back to being happy.
She sure does. And a very good job she does of it, too. MC squeezes Yuri lovingly with one arm.
You're a very lucky man, MC.
I sure am. Anyway, I think we're all done reading.
No, we're not.
I think all of us except Natsuki are done reading.
Do you want a copy of the script, Miss Ida? We were about to discuss it, and it might help you to follow along.
Sure, I'd love a copy.
Monika
hands me her photocopied script. It's not that long. It would probably take me an hour to read all of this. Probably not much point to trying to read the whole thing now. It looks like the club has already been at it a while. Maybe I'll just skim it while Natsuki finishes reading.
How'd they manage to read it so quickly?
The plot is as Yuri described it. The 2 characters argue about whether life is meaningful. Each is a powerful proponent of their viewpoint. The writer ultimately sets up Black's arguments, the ones that are positive and life-affirming, to ring somewhat hollow. And at the end of the story, White gets up again, presumably to commit suicide, and Black does not stop him. Instead, he has a crisis of faith, asking God why he sent White if it wasn't to help save him. It's a very dark story indeed.
Hold on, Natsuki. Yes, Monika, I am finished. Sorry that some of us take the time necessary to really digest the text. Of course, Natsuki, of course. So what did everyone think? Who wants to lead us off?
Well, I thought it was well written. One of the cooler things about it is how both of them speak so eloquently despite their different backgrounds. And they're both very intelligent in their way, so they're able to understand each other. In the end, though, I think it's a little limited by the scope. It's just a very fancy philosophy debate. And I think that the author already knew who he wanted to have win the debate when he started. So it seemed a little unfair.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Did the overall tone bother you at all? The plot seems very heavy and there's kind of an oppressive atmosphere over the whole thing. Did it make it unpleasant to read?
Well, I definitely agree about that atmosphere being there. But I think that's part of the point of it. Honestly, it didn't seem that bad. They were discussing some pretty serious stuff, true. But at the end of the day, they are just sitting around a coffee table talking. And nothing else really happens. And I guess I'd say that, at the same time, that's both the main selling point and the biggest drawback.
He has a fairly nuanced take on the style of it. I'm surprised that they're not really that bothered by the pessimistic dark tone. Normally I'd say it's fairly depressing for an 18-year-old.
I really like the Black as a character. I think it's great how he gives everything he has to try to persuade White. Like, he really pours himself out from his soul or something.
Sayori is a smart girl in her own way, but she was never the most verbally sophisticated girl.
I think that, in the end, that's what's most persuasive about Black. Nothing he says can ever really reach White, and both of them know it. But the fact that he's still there is his argument. He's still trying to save this obviously hopeless case. Trying to pull him back from the brink. And he gives everything for it. Until by the end, he's a ruined shell of a man.
I've never heard Sayori speak like this. It's like she's just narrating story playing in her head. She has that faraway look in the eyes that you get when you're talking about something while seeing it in your mind.
So, if White is persuaded at all, maybe he's persuaded by how much Black was willing to sacrifice for him and apparently for no benefit. But he doesn't get to see Black's reaction, so who knows? Overall, I really liked it.
I thought you might enjoy it, Sayori. I thought Sayori would enjoy... you thought Sayori would enjoy such a bleak story? Well, not because it's bleak, but yes. Sayori has extremely complex and sophisticated taste in literature. I partially wanted us all to read this because I was curious what she would think of it. I see.
I hated it.
Of course you did.
Like, yeah, it was well written and all, but I guess I didn't understand the point of it. Or maybe the point is that there is no point or some pretentious crap like that. But if that's your view, then why write a play about it? Like, haha, oh well, guess everything sucks and is meaningless, let's all go step in front of trains. Pish, I mean, obviously the author doesn't think that.
Maybe or maybe not, but isn't the point that it provoked such a reaction in you? Like, clearly you have a strong viewpoint about the ideas the play is exploring. So for you, maybe the point is showing you that you think there is a point that should be made.
Right, like I said, some pretentious crap.
Natsuki as willful and confident as she always is.
What did you think, Monika?
It's complicated. In a lot of ways, I empathize with White far more than I do with Black. I have basically the same worldview, I think, with one big exception. I think his abandonment of meaning is his own choice, not something intrinsic to the world. Like, yes, the world has no inherent meaning, and neither do human lives. But he chooses to see that as a permanent emptiness. And I see it as a blank canvas, you know? I think it is our responsibility to make our own meaning in the world.
Thank you.
And I think it is also our responsibility to make that meaning a positive one. So, in a way, I think that what he did was just giving up on a hard problem. Which is understandable in a way, but I think in the end, he should have done better. Very interesting. So, this is one of my favorite authors, Cormac McCarthy. I know you all are aware that I really like Lovecraft, and he writes much about fear of the unknown that could be out there in the universe. Things that are disturbing because they are unknowable and exterior. Cormac McCarthy is different in almost every way, except for one thing. He also writes about fear of the unknown. But his unknown is internal. It's about the terrifying things we don't know about ourselves. And this is one of his most accessible examinations of the knowable and interior that exists. So I was curious to see what you would all think of it. Fascinating. So do you guys take turns suggesting things for the club to do? Usually we pick someone randomly who gets to choose. But there are a few things we do all the time, like sharing poems every week. Speaking of which...
Wait! I kind of wanted to hear what Mazina thought of what she read.
Well, I didn't get that far. but I found the subtitle very interesting, a novel in dramatic form. The author almost just sets this up as an old Socratic dialogue, only there's much less back and forth. In the first half, Black tends to have most of the big moments and does most of the talking. He pours himself out, as Yuri put it, but all of that only provokes White more and more as time goes on, until his politeness cracks and he can't take any more. And I think Natsuki is right. The author knew all along how he wanted things to end. And he ends it with White taking the stage and just leveling poor Black with his nihilism. It's so bad and so final. By the end, White is almost pitying poor Black. He even apologizes to him. Then we're left with the question, what does all of this mean? And like Yuri, I think that the author very much wants to leave it to the reader to decide. Is White just correct? Is Black correct but not strong enough? It's hard to argue that. Or more likely to me, are they both missing something? I think they're both very much locked into their respective worldviews, and that those worldviews give their arguments power, but also deprive them of perspective. Perspective they could have used to untangle the problems they're grappling with, maybe. So, yeah, that's what I thought.
Gosh, Miss Ada, are you sure you don't teach English? Yeah, that was some expert-level literary deconstruction.
Well, I like to read as much as anyone. And I remember all of my high school English teachers' thoughtful old lectures. Didn't I just say a moment ago I'm not that into literature? I guess I was just inspired by hearing you guys talking so intelligently about the text.
Well, hopefully you won't judge our poetry too harshly against the professional writing we just read. Because it's time to move on to poems. But just keep in mind that our poems are just amateur works at best.
Oh, I'm sure they're fine.
Here, let's start with mine. Our poems this week are supposed to be about school subjects, so keep that in mind.
Good God, my voice is dying. It's, like, so dry in my room. Damned winter. Ugh.
Just things. Things bumping into other things. That's all everything really is. And every collision, every path. As foreordained and predictable as the answer to 2 + 2. Every dream, all your pain, all your love, and every memory is a thing bumping into another thing. In that way, they and I are not that different. I noticed you talk about physics a lot ever since you took it. I do like the poem. It ties the school subject into your usual Monika stuff.
What's her usual Monika stuff? Monika likes to write poems that question the fundamental nature of our reality. Here she is tied in an exploration of physics to break down barriers between different people. She reduces everyone, in any conceivable kind of reality, to things bouncing off of other things. In a way, it's very equalizing.
I'm into this one. Monika more than usual. I like how it gets out pretty fast after making its point. Efficient.
It's very simple for a poem from you, I'd say, Monika. Usually I'd expect a bit more punctuation or rhythmic spacing.
Yes, normally I would, but this poem didn't seem to have room for it. It was really a pretty short thought. I guess I thought it was a little too simple to deserve much stylizing.
Well, for the future, not that this one was bad at all, but I love your stylizing of poems. It's very inspiring.
Thanks, MC. Miss Ada, any thoughts since you're here?
I think I agree with MC. I think the content is not the problem, but it lacks a distinctive voice. And the problem is not that you don't have a distinctive voice, clearly, since the people here say it's missing from this poem. But I think every thought you work on is probably worthy of putting your style on.
Well, that's good advice. I probably got a little lazy on this one and thought the idea was enough to just stand on its own. But really, I should have crafted it more carefully and finely. Every idea worth writing down is worth perfecting. And that's Monika's writing tip of the day. Who's next?
I'll go. Amateur creator of universes. Here in this room, like threads on a loom, my imagination unfurls. The imitation of worlds is the fabrication of worlds. These strands expand, arcing across and downward in a single stroke earthward. The bright sky of bounders. Look closely and you'll see the world reflected inside me.
Oh, a rhyming structure. That's a little unusual for you. But I like it. It's very elegant. That's really pretty. You should make more of your poems rhyme, Yuri. You're really good at that.
Thank you. I'm kind of nervous to share in front of Miss Ada. But I normally don't care too much if my poems rhyme. Rhyming constricts me from picking the word that feels right most of the time. But here, for a poem about art, it felt right.
That's they're very Yuri rhymes too, if that makes sense.
Definitely. Room and lure definitely rhymes you'd only hear in a Yuri poem.
I guess you have a bit of a reputation for more intellectual poems, Yuri. So it would seem. Well, your poems are obviously very thoughtful and imaginative.
Yeah, but take a look at my poem. I think you in particular might like it, Miss Ida. The Ludicrous Cookbook. I read a recipe the other day, but I have no idea where to find the ingredients. How does this cook do it? It's like they took whatever was laying around, like a big batch of fruitcake, swept it all up into a big bowl, but somehow made perfection. And how did they measure so precisely? I could barely get a single quarter liter right. But they call for perfect ratios, on and everything. It's ridiculous. I don't even know what shop sells it.
Acetylacetone? I have no idea how to pronounce that word. Also, it's weird. Like, the bar is, like, frequently here, but there's frequently also, like, nothing when you scroll. Why are you being weird, Renpai?
Oh, it's fun chemistry. I see why you'd think I like this one. Very cute, Natsuki. Did I say something wrong? Yuri hates it whenever she's associated with the word cute. Okay. Although it's for an understandable reason. She worries that when her work are regarded as cute, either ceases to be taken seriously. Oh, I see. Sorry, Natsuki, that wasn't my intention.
That's okay. But yeah, Yuri basically got it right. But Natsuki, can't something be cute and taken seriously? Like, this poem is very cute, but it's also very good and worth being taken seriously.
Yeah, something can be cute and deep or worthwhile. Why do they have to be mutually exclusive?
Exactly, can't they coexist? Weird, it's like you guys are becoming a hive mind. I wish people could hold both those concepts in their head at once, I really do. But for now, experience tells me that they cannot. So until they do, I have to take my stand. On the side of not cute.
As usual, mine sucks compared to you guys, so let's get it out of the way. Lines. Lines and shapes, curves and angles, they relate together in perfect unison. A certain peace steals over you as you feel the lines resting against each other in a triangle. The lines can never lie, each one pure truth embodied, and through them lies the shape of everything. Oh, see, it goes so much further than the text. I don't get it.
This isn't bad at all, MC.
It does have a certain appeal to you, I'd imagine.
It does. I love how geometry is turned into a metaphor for order in the whole world. I am definitely a sucker for poetry about reality metaphors. I think some of the phrasings could have been a little more carefully crafted, but overall it's quite good. I'm very impressed at how you improve week by week, MC. Before too long, you'll be writing better poems than any of us.
Well, I don't know about that.
Oh, you're doing great, MC. Don't listen to Yuri's phrasings nitpicking. She's right that you're doing really well. You're light years ahead of where you used to be, you know. Heck, I think all of us are starting to pick up cool stuff from your style now. What do you think, Yuri?
I
love everything that MC writes.
Sounds like you have at least one big fan, MC. You're the least experienced poet here.
I am. Only started about a year ago.
Well, you'd hardly know it. I'm impressed at how deep all your poems dive. They're very thought-provoking. I guess it's your turn last, Sayori.
Yeah.
However, I'm out of time for this episode and session, so we're going to pick up with Sayori's poem next time. So thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch you next time with more Doki Doki Club Meetings Season 2! Hope to see you then! Bye-bye!